And a very good Saturday morning to you. It is 11 o'clock here in beautiful Seattle where the sun is shining. The sky is showing a rare clearness. 2 o'clock back on the East Coast, especially in Pittsburgh, where a number of people are listening today, I'm sure. Welcome to another edition of Drive Time Radio. It's radio because we go over the airwaves and also get out on our social media components. Of course, we're on YouTube and Facebook on a couple of different channels, and what's the other one? X. Yes, it used to be Twitter, right? X. Well, and we're on that too, so you can watch us in all of those places. And this morning, we got a pretty good show for you, I think. Some information, a great interview with couple of people that I've watched on YouTube for a long time. I had this strange fascination with RVs. I don't know why exactly, but I do. I really look at the people who buy an RV and travel around the country, either in that nomad thing where they work and travel around, or in just getting parking at your driveway and on a weekend, get your kids in it and taking a ride to the local campground. I think it's a great way to get outdoors. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to see the greatest country in the world. Well, some would argue with that right now, but still go with the greatest country in the world, America, and certainly a country that has a lot to see. I mean, you could get an RV here and not put over 500 miles one way on it, still see more than you would ever see in probably 95% of the other countries in the world, excuse me. And so I have this fascination. I love to watch these people as they go different places and see different things. It also makes me want to plan out a trip in an RV or maybe just by car. There's a ton of these people that actually sleep in their cars. It's a thing. It's a thing, and I'm not talking about homeless people who don't have a place to go. I'm talking about people who voluntarily they get money, they work on the road or remotely. They just say, listen, I'm going to live in my car. I'm going to save money. I'm going to travel. I'm going to be on the road. Being on the road is such a cool thing. I think, again, you'll find people that will argue, but I will say that a month spent out on the road, avoiding as many interstates as you can, is something that really gives you an education that you can't get in school. You meet people, you go to towns, you talk to people, you see how other people live and how other people can survive. I used to think when I was a kid, how does anybody survive outside of New York City? I mean, there's nothing out there. And as soon as I got on the road a few times, as soon as I traveled a few times, as soon as I was able to see what was out there, it made me realize that New York was not the only place in the world, that there were several other places where people were happy and they lived their lives and made money and enjoyed themselves. And the only reason I got this knowledge later in my life is that I specifically took time to go out on the road and check it out. Now, this was a period, nowadays it's a lot more homogenized, and there's a McDonald's in every town, there's a this and every there's an IKEA in every city. It was a lot more homogenized. It was a lot less homogenized. I mean, in the old days, when I first got out on the road, all these different regions had all these different stores. There was no Walmart, or it wasn't big. I mean, Walmart was a thing that was in a couple of southern states. Sears was the most, I guess, the retailer you would see the most all over the country. But there were many different retailers, many different places to eat. And I'm not just talking about fast food places, although fast food was certainly, White Castle was in the Northeast. When you got down south, you had, there was another chain down there, I forget, that made like White Castle type hamburgers. Out west, it was Norgles. was a Mexican food place, Del Taco, Taco Bell. We see Taco Bell in New York now. You couldn't find a Taco Bell in New York uh, 30 years ago. I mean, I still remember when there was no McDonald's in New York. You had to drive up to Elmsford, New York to find a McDonald's. There was the most popular hamburger places were a place called Carol's and a place called West. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that getting out in an RV expands your horizons. It gives you an education. It lets you meet people that are not like you, that are different, that have different backgrounds, have come up in different places. And I got to be honest with you, it's why I think that I function with a lot of different groups of people because when I was that age, I would listen. I would pull into a town, usually my traveling partner, whoever that was, we would go into a town and we'd hang out. We'd go to a local restaurant to have breakfast. We'd walk around a little bit, see what was going on, talk to some people, walk into a hardware store and just browse. You get into a conversation with people and you'd find out more about that area. Now, as soon as they heard the New York accent, they usually stood right behind you to make sure you weren't stealing anything. But hey, you get used to that. But it was just this really wonderful experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. There's a couple of people that are on YouTube that do this on a consistent basis. I think it takes a lot of guts to do it, to I don't know, sell your house or rent out your house and jump into a square little truck and drive around the country and see what there is to see. I think it takes a lot of guts to do that, especially if you have kids. Maybe you have to homeschool them for a year or, something like that. You have to make certain sacrifices, do things a little bit differently, but you get this wonderful experience of seeing this country. And no matter what they tell you on CNN or Fox or YouTube or anything like that, this country is not that bad. The people are a little shaky at the moment, but the country still remains beautiful. The Grand Canyon is just as beautiful today as it was 40 years ago, 100 years ago, and so on and so forth. Crossing over the Rockies, the Continental Divide, all of those things that you used to see on postcards, they're all just as beautiful. Looking at a glacier in Alaska, driving from Baja all the way up to Alaska, which is something that I haven't done, and I've put on my list. There's two trips that I want to make here pretty quickly. That I really think that for me, there are two trips that need to be taken, and one of them is Baja all the way up to Alaska to do the whole highway. Actually, I'd be content with going from here to Alaska, driving the Yukon Highway from here to Alaska. So I would be content with that. But I really like to do it Baja all the way up along the coast as far as I could. I've gone from San Diego up to Seattle as close to the coast as I could. I've done all of that. And but that second part from here to Alaska is the one that fascinates me now, and I think within the next couple of years, I'm going to try to do that. The other trip that I wanted to take but just couldn't do it a couple of years ago, but I will do it is Route 66. I've been on portions of Route 66, but I want to get on Route 66 and go from Chicago all the way to Los Angeles. Um, and stop at some of the places that are rapidly disappearing from our American landscape. So those are two trips that I have in mind that I would like to do. So we will talk to Abby and Jason Epperson. They are from RV Miles, the website. They have formed a community of RVs, and they did that same thing that we were just talking about. They got out of their house, got into an RV with their 3 kids, and toured the country, went all over the place. And their YouTube channel is wildly popular. It's a great place to look if you are just going to get into RVs. Uh, if you're just going to get into even car camping, there's information there for all of that they tell you, and it's really, I think, very fascinating. It was fascinating to talk to them. We will talk to them in just a couple of minutes. They are here, or will be here, I should say, for the Seattle RV show that will be next week at Lumen Field Event Center. That is something that you are probably going to, if you're interested in an RV, go and check out. Although, I would probably, at this point in time, go with a used RV and try to gauge before I go out and lay 100 grand out or 150. I'd probably get a used one for a period of good one in good condition, and take that out and check it out, see if I really enjoy doing this. Do I want to do it in an all contained unit? Do I want to tow a trailer? How do I want to do this? And there's many questions that you have to ask yourself before you go out and you do this. But they will have some good information for you. We'll talk to them in just a couple of minutes. Couple of news items that are around. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Are Man, there is is there a battle over electric cars and electrification coming to your front doorstep? Now, if you've listened to this show, that I am an advocate of electric cars. I like electric cars. I think they're good for the environment. I think what they do is good. I've also said, along with the electric cars, that car buying in the future is something that's going to be relegated more to purpose of what you want to buy than just going in and buying an all-purpose car. We have it now. I mean, some people go out and buy a sports car. Some people buy an SUV because they have to haul things or family around. Some people buy a two-door car. Some people buy a four-door car. I mean, it's different, but the the mode of mobility is going to be the thing that will determine, I think, in the future, much more of what kind of car you want to drive or you need to drive. If you are a city person and you live in a house, not an apartment, at least this will be for the next few years. You will need to buy a car. You can go buy an electric car. You have the facilities to charge it or install a charger at your house. You take short trips. You don't take a lot of road trips. And the electric car will work the best for you. You won't be polluting the air. Your expenses will come down as far as what you spend to own a car, because there is, number one, you don't use gasoline, so you're not at the women will of different oil companies and what they want to charge for gasoline on that particular day. You also have more space, I think, inside of many electric cars. It's quiet. There's a lot of advantages to an electric car. The biggest disadvantage to an electric car is the charging. It's either the range or the availability of charging stations, which both of will be fixed in the coming years, to where you'll be able to go out and buy an electric car that will be suited to your needs. If you want to take road trips down to San Francisco, you'll be able to do it. There'll be enough charging stations along the way. Just this week, a number of the major companies announced that they're all in to build superchargers, similar to what Tesla has, and place them strategically on all different routes. So you'll be able to charge your car when it's down to 80%. You have to run it down to zero, to looking for a charging station, as I have on occasion. You will also again, there'll be other different incentives. Battery life will get better. Battery life will get longer. The range of the batteries will get longer. So all these things are going to happen in the future, and in the not too distant future. But the car companies are realizing that, except for Tesla owners, people have an anxiety about buying electric cars. Now, I don't think that this is, I think this is not only caused by electric cars, but it's caused by politics. I truly believe that the right has made such a hubbub about electric cars that they've really made it a sign of the left, of even centrist people, that it's not that you buy an electric car because you want help the environment, you want cleaner air, you want save money on gas, you want to try something new and different. No, 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 it's not about that. They say that you buy an electric car because you support Joe Biden, or you support the leftist agenda, or you support, and that kind of crap has gotten into the minds of people all over the country. It's funny that you don't hear that much complaining about electric cars in Europe. People buy them over there. So, and I think that's something that's with our society today. That's something that you could have a 1,000-mile range battery that charges in 15 minutes, and you're going to have people that are going to be against the electric car because they see it as, because they've been told to be against it, not because they've done the research, but they've been told to be against it. So that's a problem that new car manufacturers are going to have to deal with. And the fact that, and I think, and again, these are only personal opinions, but I think that they were working on autonomous driving, and all of a sudden they saw Tesla take off like it did, and they dropped everything on autonomous driving, not everything, but a lot of it, and devoted their resources to electric vehicles. Then you had the mandate of the Biden administration that said you have to switch by 2024, 2034. And that turned off a lot of people. So the car companies are starting to realize that they have, according to many reports, all of these electric vehicles sitting on their lots. It used to be when they made an electric vehicle, it either went to the West Coast or the East Coast. And people were paying a ton of money to get them imported to places like Madison, Wisconsin, and Ann Arbor, Michigan, and places where you couldn't get them. Now they are generally available anywhere in the country. And so the availability of the electric car, the manufacture of electric cars has been stepped up, but people, for whatever reason, aren't buying them at this moment. I'm going to stress at this moment. So what that does now is it puts the automakers in a hole. So over the past 2 weeks, we have heard a whole lot of changes that are going to happen in the automotive industry. It is, it appears that General Motors is going to step up, not electric vehicle production, but are going to go back to PHEVs, which are plug-in hybrid vehicles, which give you, in essence, the ability to drive a car around the city, maybe get 60, 70 miles on electric. But then when the electric runs out, or you go on the road and you run out of electricity, you can pull it over to a charging station and charge it up again. And you can continue your trip before you do that with a gasoline engine that's in the car. So you have both. You have gasoline and you have electric. So if you're doing your errands around town, you're driving around, you're going to the dentist, going to the doctor, going to the mall, wherever you're going, you use electric. You don't use any gas. When you take that drive to San Francisco or to Portland or to Spokane, you have a gas engine in there. You can use that when you run out of power, run out of electric power, and complete your trip like that. So both good, nothing wrong with that. It doesn't give you the same electric effect that you get from a complete electric car, but it's close enough. And what it does, I think, is wean you from the idea of gasoline. Right? It weans you from that bond we have to gasoline, because if you can drive around town, and I've done this in a Chevy Volt, which was, I think, one of the first plug-in hybrids. I really enjoyed that car. I did a couple of road trips in that car, and it really was spectacular. Of course, you drove it on electric. If I was driving around Pittsburgh, I was driving around New York City, I could do it on electric. No fumes, no nothing. Once I got on the road, if I didn't want to drive electric, I could hit the switch, or boom, now I'm in gasoline. Now I can drive down the Pennsylvania Turnpike without worrying about charging my vehicle up. Or am I going to run out? I don't have that range anxiety that so many people get and prevents so many people from driving these cars. So this really was the best of both worlds. And I love that Volt. I know they're very popular on the used car market. I see a lot of people still driving them. And I think it was a hit, but it also introduced people to electric cars in a way that gave them confidence. The same kind of confidence that people that own Teslas have, and that they buy their car and they're going to map a trip out instead of just jumping in a car willy-nilly. And I know the whole idea messes with your thought of independence. It's a little scary, isn't it? It makes you a little nervous to not know if you can come back when you take a trip, to not know if you have that independence, because so much of the car symbolizes our independence as a nation. We can go where we want. We can do what we want. So I think you're going to see in the next few months, we're going to be talking a lot more about plug-in hybrids. And we're going to be talking a lot more about affordable electrics. Part of the problem with the electric cars is that they have not been affordable. They went to the luxury end of the market where they could make the most money first, but there needs to be an affordable, $27,000 or $28,000 or $26,000 electric car. There needs to be something that a first-time car buyer who fits the criteria of someone who would buy an electric car can get into and drive. Now, out here in California, in Washington and Oregon and California, it seems to be that there's much more well-heeled people, many more well-heeled people, and there's much more activity around buying electric cars. I think we lead the nation in adaptation of electric cars. But if you're in a rural area, if you're in somewhere like Tequila, Oregon, or something like that, maybe an electric car is tough for you because it's 40 miles to get to town. And there's no charging station in town. And to charge it by regular electricity, just if you plug it into to something, it's going to take you hours. So if you have the hybrid, you have that advantage. Now, I don't know what this is going to do to regular electrics that they're putting out, if they're going to stop production, if they're going to change things around, what they're going to do. I'm not privy to those plans yet. When I know them, I will keep you informed on them. But I think this is a good way of keeping people interested in electric because electric is the future for automotive. Electric is the future with other fuels probably taking up other sections. I mean, it's interesting to look at the Tesla huge trucks that Pepsi and Doritos and Frito Lay has purchased and have out on the roads in California. It's amazing people, how much gasoline, diesel fuel it saves, much less pollution is put into the air because of these vehicles. And so I think that's something that when people see those and that those are effective and they work well, it'll be another turn on for people that want to buy electric cars. And I think also, the people that drive high mileage. There's a core of people in our country that drive a lot of miles, depending on what they do. Either salespeople or this or that, and that they probably use, I don't know, you know, it, like 75% of the road, and it's 10% of the drivers, 15% of the drivers. And I think the federal government, if they're wise, are going to target those people and give them incentives to drive an electric car or to drive an electric vehicle. It'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating to me to watch and to again, we've said this before. It's like we're living again through the time when they invented cars. We're living again through the time where every week there was something new. Windshield wipers, hydraulic brakes, all of these different things, electric starters, all of these different things that were developed in the early 20th century, the late 19th century, all of these things that were developed so that people could, so that they could improve these cars, bigger engines. But nobody then worried about pollution. Nobody then worried about the types of things that get you upset nowadays. You mentioned global warming, half the audience walks out. I just think that we are in a place now, though, where we're going to have to um, maybe not make a decision. Maybe we'll be able to see which works best. Maybe the hybrids will be the answer to the question: why won't you buy an electric car? It'll be the thing that puts you over the top. If you're considering an electric car, I'd love to hear from you and hear what your thought process is on those electric cars. I think there are some people. My good friend Danny Brown from Pittsburgh just jumped in on our comments line and said that no electric vehicle ever for me. And I can appreciate that. What I would suggest is that you go and drive one. Especially, and I know, Danny, you're a speed guy. You like to go fast. I've never gone faster or had more neck snapping performance than I have driving an electric vehicle. It's phenomenal how fast those things go, how quickly they get up to speed. They're 0 to 60 times, 0 to 70 times. They're 60 to 90 times are pretty phenomenal. So that's something to look forward to as and we'll be keeping an eye on it because you know me, I love the electric cars. I don't dislike gasoline engine cars. I'll probably always have a gasoline engine car. I do love that rumble you get from it. I do love that sound on a summer night when you got the top down and the window down and that, and They have put sounds in some of the electric cars that are astounding. They sound like they whine, some of them, when they drive. So I could understand why you don't want to drive a whining car. Maybe they got to come up with a better solution for sound than a car that whines. I get it. Believe you me, I get it. All right, another thing that came up on the agenda this week that I was looking at, and I thank Steve Leto and his fine YouTube channel, Leto's Law, for this information. So we see it around here, especially younger people down in Kent and places like that. You see it in Pittsburgh, in on Banksville Road, and maybe up on some of the interstates, where people will gather around and on a Friday or Saturday night, mostly young people, and they'll watch people put on what they call the sideshow. Now, nowadays, it's drifting and it's burning rubber and it's all of that stuff. In my day, we were much more oriented toward drag racing. We had a place in New York called a connecting highway, and it's legendary, legendary. On a Friday and Saturday night, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10,000 people would gather, and they'd look down on this open cut roadway that was just about a quarter mile long from bridge to bridge, overpass to overpass. And people would go and they would race there. I mean, you'd go to the parking lot. There was it was an industrial area. And you go to some of the parking lots, and people would have whole mechanic shops out there. My dad owned gas stations on both ends of it. So he stayed open late on a Friday or Saturday night because people wanted to use the lift. People wanted to, I mean, it was pretty amazing what you would see people do. And so it's developed into this thing, as we say, called a sideshow. And you usually see it in Tacoma or, up here, where people are spinning their cars or they're drifting and a crowd is gathered around. They go out on social media Friday night, 1:00. We're going to do a sideshow in Kent. Kent is one of the popular places for the sideshow. So I guess they're doing a sideshow in Stockton, California. And the police show up and they obviously stop the sideshow, but they impound the cars of not only the people that are at the sideshow participating in it, but they impound the cars of people who are watching the sideshow. I think it was close to 100 cars that they impounded, and are holding these vehicles, searching each one of the vehicles to see if they can find contraband, and under a new California law, are not required to give them back to the people. If you're caught in either in spectating or in participating in this particular type of motor vehicle activity, the state has passed a law that says, well, you can keep those cars and sell them at auction so that the city, gets part of the cost of having to enforce this stuff defrayed. So it gives the city certainly a financial interest in seizing these cars. Now, I'm a guy that has listen. I've raced on the street, and I've done some of the stuff many years ago, and I know what it is. I know it's a place for kids to gather and play with their cars. I also know that it's dangerous. And I also know with the speed of today's cars that it can be deadly. Not only to the person driving the car, but other people that are in the vicinity when the car could potentially go out of control. We tried many years back to rent space at an airport. so that we could go out to a small airport on a Friday or Saturday night and bring the kids out there, and they'd pay $10 and they could drag race out on the runway. And for a while, that was successful. I know they did it in Southern California for many years. The Southern California Hot Rod Timing Association, I think, was the name of the. But they got people to register their cars with the association. They could come out on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday and race their cars against each other. There were safety checks and so on and so forth. And you had to, get a certificate that you were skilled in driving a car like that, which again, I have no problem with because it's a safety thing. But I worry about the overuse of this and the fact that they're only going to go somewhere else. You're not going to stop it. I mean, they've been trying to stop it since 1948. And kids still go out and drag race. It's something in the male DNA, in the female DNA. The males like to race, the chicks like to watch. Some places the chicks like to race, the males like to watch. And I don't know what the end result of this is going to be, but beware that if California is doing it, it's only a matter of time before they'll start doing it up here, if they don't have that authorization already. And if you're you have your nice hot rod down there on a Saturday night, you're watching some drifting show in a parking lot, and the cops come along, usually everybody scatters to their cars. But it might be worth the police department adding some cops on a Friday night to strategically place them so people can't leave the area and they impound those cars. So beware of that. A word to the wise sometimes can be sufficient. And that's something that you should be aware of if you're out and you're watching the street racers and or the drifters or the sideshow thing. You should be aware of that. It sucks for somebody to lose their car. It's one thing when you're racing and you lose your car. That really sucks. But when you're just watching, you grabbed a couple of hamburgers at the Quick Way down there, and now you're over by the container yards in Tacoma, and you're watching, or in Fife, and you're watching people do their thing on a Friday or Saturday night, and the cops come along and they impound your car, and they're not going to give it back because somebody found a joint in the car. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it's reality. So be aware of that. Be careful. Be cautious. Because it could be your car sitting in that police impound lot and them getting ready to sell it for a ridiculously low price. All right. We'll talk to Abby and Jason in just a second. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl. We're going to get bombarded with a number of Super Bowl commercials already. There's a bunch of them on the internet. If you want to go looking for them, just go to YouTube. And it got me to thinking, what is the best Super Bowl commercial? A car commercial I had ever seen, because car manufacturers have been synonymous with the Super Bowl since the whole thing started. It was a way to reach that audience that owns those cars that go spinning and drifting and all the other stuff. And there's been some great commercials over the years. And I wanted to think what's one commercial that stuck out in my mind about cars and and it was one that I came up with that really stuck out in my head and really made me think that this is it was so well done, so jingoistic, so done at a right time for our country that we needed. It's almost like this commercial sent a message, not just to football fans, but to the whole entire world. I don't know anybody else that could have pulled this off in the same way but Clint Eastwood. There was two of them that they did They did one with Paul Harvey's voice, What is a Farmer? And then they did this one, which kind of resembled that Morning in America Reagan commercial of many years ago. But let's see if we can get this up and play it for you. Hang on 1 second.
It's halftime. Both teams are in their locker room discussing what they can do to win this game in the second half. It's halftime in America, too. People are out of work and they're hurting, and they're all wondering what they're going to do to make a comeback. And we're all scared because this isn't a game. The people of Detroit know a little something about this. They almost lost everything. But we all pulled together. Now Motor City is fighting again. I've seen a lot of tough eras, a lot of downturns in my life, times when we didn't understand each other. It seems that we've lost our heart at times. The fog of division, discord, and blame made it hard to see what lies ahead. But after those trials, we all rallied around what was right and acted as one. Because that's what we do. We find a way through tough times, and if we can't find a way, then we'll make one. All that matters now is what's ahead. How do we come from behind? How do we come together? And how do we win? Detroit's showing us it can be done. And what's true about them is true about all of us. This country can't be knocked out with one punch. We get right back up again, and when we do, the world's going to hear the roar of our engines. Yeah, it's halftime America, and our second half's about to begin.
I know that that's very jingoistic commercial, so on and so forth. But Lord, man, that was just such a well done commercial. I think it's the best car commercial that's ever played for the Super Bowl. I know there's probably people that would disagree with me, but that's what life is all about, right? All right, let's get Abby and Jason up for from RV Miles. They'll be here at the Seattle RV show at Lumen Event Center next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I got a chance to sit down with them and spend some time talking about RVs, the state of the RV world, and even more important, things that you should look out for if you are interested in taking that plunge into the RV world. And welcome back to Drive Time Radio. New York Vinnie hanging out with you. It's actually a really nice Saturday here in Seattle and its environs. So we get a chance now, being as the weather is this nice. What do you think about? Well, I know you think about putting away the umbrella and everything, but you also think about summer vacation. And this is the time where at least you should be thinking, well, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Do I want to do something different? Am I just going to fly off to grandma's house? Which way is this all going to go this summer? And my next guests are people who I think have probably helped over their time on the internet. So many people have good vacations if they're thinking about the RV lifestyle, and that includes living in your RV full time, cruising around to different places. Abby and Jason Epperson are with us from the RV Miles uh, website and podcast and YouTube channel, and they are must see watching and listening if you want to get into the RV thing or if you're already in it and you want to know more. So welcome to the show, guys. How you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having us, Vinny.
It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Good to see you here too. They are coming to the Seattle RV show. They'll actually be doing some seminars that you can do participate in at the RV Miles Theater, I think it is. That's a
Yeah.
pretty nice little coup to get that going, right?
Yeah.
It has a nice ring to it. Yes.
You've never had your own theater before.
And that's true. We actually come from the theater industry. We have a theater background
We
from
had to
before our RV
leave
days, but
we had to leave theater in order to get a theater named after us. Yes.
You know what? I played basketball in high school, and and I had to leave the basketball game to get into radio to have a high school gymnasium here named after me. So I'm feeling you. I know
there you go.
exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. It always happens once you leave. Um,
Exactly.
I know you guys are going to be doing some great seminars on RVs and also on national parks because you do a separate podcast about them. What are we seeing in the RV industry now? I talked to somebody the other day that said to me, "Well, I was thinking about it, but everybody tells me the campgrounds are so crowded, you can't get a good spot, you can't get a place anywhere, it's so expensive." Is that what we're seeing, or is this actually a good time for people to get involved in this activity?
Well, a lot of people bought RVs throughout the pandemic. In particular, there was quite the boom in RV sales when people couldn't really go anywhere on an airplane, and a lot of people own them still. And the campgrounds are pretty busy. But if you insist on going to the most popular places, you're going to have those reservations well in advance. But if you like to travel the back roads and go to some of the places that are less popular, maybe not the biggest national parks, you can find a lot of serendipitous camping out there. You can sort of discover the road on your own still.
And while this year may seem like it's very, very busy, there's a lot happening in the campground industry right now where we're starting to see new campgrounds that are being built. That's going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, those aren't going to pop up this season, but they are working to meet that demand. So even if this is the year that you're researching an RV and perhaps you're going to buy next year, we do anticipate that we're going to continue to see more spaces open up, more campgrounds are going to become available, which means more space for you to enjoy the outdoors.
And are these the Spartan campgrounds of old where you think you just get a place to pull your vehicle over and sleep for the night and then take off? Or are we starting to see more uh, places with amenities, pools and things like that where people it's more like a gathering than it is just a campground?
There's everything on both ends of the spectrum and everything in between. There are resorts now that cost upwards of $150 a night to camp in, that have all the things that you would expect at like a high-end hotel resort, where they've got a restaurant and a bar and pools and hot tubs and fitness centers and game rooms and all that sort of stuff. And then you still have all of the the state and federal and local campgrounds that you might just have an electrical connection or just water, and you're back in the woods. And maybe it's still a bit of a communal atmosphere, though. That's one of the nice things about RVing and camping is, when you're in a hotel, you wouldn't expect somebody to knock on your hotel door if they're walking down the hallway. But in a campground, everybody says hi, and if you've got a problem, there's always somebody there to help.
Yeah, it seems to be a real congenial atmosphere. I mean, obviously you're going to get the crazy people who are going to blast music at night or things like that, but for the most part, it seems to be a very respectful atmosphere above. Between people that do this activity, that go out and buy the RVs and camp in these places, and it's almost like you make new friends just out of being a part of this thing.
Absolutely. We were full-time RVers for 7 years. We're not full-time anymore. We're part-time, or we call ourselves normal RVers now. But we lived in an RV full-time for 7 years with our three kids, and we actually found a heck of a lot of community on the road. But if you're one of those people that wants to get away from everybody too, you can go to some of the Bureau of Land Management land in the West that's wide open, and just camp in the middle of of nowhere by yourself as well if you'd like to.
I think there's
Yeah,
a
let's
lot to be I think there's a lot to be said for that too, because this is why people are still RVing. This is why RVing continues to be so popular, because it does allow you to kind of have some individuality, but also find that community of others who are interested in something that you are interested in as well. You know, for those resorts that have a lot of amenities, the pools and the playgrounds, these are really great for families because you can go to these places, you can go to the pool, and your kids can go off and they can run the campground with a host of other kids that are just there for the weekend. It's weekend friends. And so mom and dad have all of these things that they get to relax. They get to maybe read a book. They're going to have a drink by the pool. Their kids are going to go and run themselves off until it's time to come home and fall into bed. And everyone is living their best life at the campground in whatever way that works for them. It's such a multifaceted way to like get out and explore our country. And I think that's why it continues to be as popular as it is 4 years now into the boom that started in 2020.
It really seems that you're seeing, as you said before, more RVs on the road, more families. You know, a lot of times you would see like hunting or fishing season, one person driving their RV, but now you see a lot more pickup trucks with four doors and a family, couple of kids in the back. I mean, it really seems to be a good way, not just for a family, to go someplace different, but to kind of get that. You know, we're also rushed in our lives these days. That it seems like this is a good way to take a week or 2 weeks or however long and get to know your family a bit again, because you really kind of have to stay with each other and have to get along in close quarters, as
And
you
it's
guys
a
well know.
Yes, as we did for 7 years. Yes, we did. We were all very much in close quarters together, but it was an incredible experience for our family. And it's also a really incredible way to invite some outside family members, extended family, to come on this vacation with you. And, a lot of times with RV resorts, even if, grandma and grandpa or other family members don't necessarily have an RV, well, there's cabins on site at a lot of these places now, too. So you have these options where you can have all of your family come on this vacation with you, but maybe you're not all sharing like one living space, right? You're all still getting to go off and have your own space, but you're all meeting up together in this campground. And this has been another really great way. I know for us, as we had traveled, to invite our family into our experience was to be able to stay at places like that and have family members come join us that didn't necessarily have an RV, but they could come down for the weekend and be in a cabin, and we could all experience life at the campground and exploring outside the campground together.
Did you guys ever feel like people were looking down at you, or maybe say, "Oh, these guys are living in a trailer, living in a camper," or I mean, did you ever
There
get
was
that kind of either from family or friends, or did that ever
No,
happen
it
to you
not
guys?
it
not
was a
from.
concern we had that
Mhm.
people would feel that way, but we were positively surprised by the support from our family, and we never felt that way out on the road. Of course, you're in an environment where other people are doing it too. So
Yes, you
um,
find your tribe. But I think,
Yeah.
when we started in 2016, I think there's been a huge shift over the 8 years that we have been RVers, and especially those 7 years that we were full timers. From where we started in 2016 to getting off the road as full timers in 2023, the shift of how people look at full time RVing has done a complete 180. I mean, now this is the thing that really everyone wants to aspire to. We want to all figure out how we can have that nomadic life and get out on the road, be that for a month at a time, or, as many weekends as possible as we can. That was certainly, I would say, when we started in 2016, there were not nearly as many people doing the full time or even just the RV lifestyle in general as we're seeing now.
Abby and Jason Epperson from RV Miles, the website, rvmiles.com. They'll also be at the Seattle RV Show coming up this next weekend over at the Lumen Events Center. They're doing seminars Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the RV Miles Theater. Um, how do you dip your toes in this? Do you go out and write a check out for 100 grand for a Mercedes Sprinter, or if you just want to, let's say it's a small family, maybe husband, wife, two kids. How do you what's the best way to dip your toes in the water without drowning?
well, one of the great things now is that RV rentals have also boomed with the surge in RV sales. So there's a lot of places where you can do peer-to-peer RV rentals, just like it's sort of like Uber or Airbnb. You can go to RV Share or Outdoorsy and rent somebody else's RV, and it might not be one that you take around the country. You can just rent one that they set up at a campground for you, and you can go to that campground and stay in it just for a weekend or a week or whatever, and see if you like that. And that's certainly a much more affordable way to do it. You can also buy a used RV, of course. You can buy an entry level used RV, and then if you don't like it, you can sell it, and you don't take as much of a depreciation hit on it.
Right. I saw your latest, I think it was your latest podcast, or maybe it was the YouTube, about that there are a lot of people now who are saying that that might be the way to go, to buy used, as opposed to just going out and laying a lot of money down for new. Not just for the fact of you're not paying what you pay for new, but maybe some of the older RVs have a little more quality to them, or a little better built than what you might see today.
There certainly have been some quality issues during the pandemic boom. I think a lot of that is improved now. I think that we're beyond. There was all this sort of supply chain issues that a lot of manufacturers and a lot of industries dealt with. There was a lot of labor issues, and the RV industry got sort of hit with a perfect storm where, when the pandemic hit, all of their dealers canceled all their orders because they thought nobody would be buying. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted one, and all the dealer lots got empty, and they rushed to make as many as possible. Things have cooled down a little bit, and I think quality has sort of improved back to where it was. But yeah, when you buy a used RV, you can certainly pay less for a similar quality. But either way, we always like to recommend to people that these are very expensive items, and just like if you bought a used car, you might take it to a mechanic to get inspected, or if you bought a house, you would have a home inspector look at it. You can get an RV inspector to look at any new or used RV, to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape.
If you guys were going to do this again, would you go with a trailer, or would you go with a self-contained unit like a Sprinter or something like this? If you were first starting out,
I think for us, what has always been, because we have 3 kids, and what has always kind of driven what we move into is there something out there that 3 people can have their own dedicated space, that 5 people can have somewhere to sleep every single night, that doesn't have to be converted from a dinette or from a sofa. And that was really important to us. And so when I go, and even today, as we continue to look for what is the next phase for our family, for our next RV, we are actively shopping right now. And that continues to be a driver for us. How can our kids have a space of their own? Because we want a space of our own. So how
right?
can we all find the rig that is perfect for what our family's life is like out on the road? And so we continue to always keep our eyes wide open, be that a motorhome or a towable. Now, certainly for us, we own a truck, and that plays a big factor into what we want to get. I think where you're starting off from, budget, of course, plays a big factor, and that will always play a big factor for us. But because we own a truck, and I think in the beginning, we obviously did not. We started out in a motorhome in the beginning. It was actually a converted school bus that we gutted out ourselves and turned into the RV that we wanted it to be, because we just couldn't find one in our price point. So we said, well, whatever, we're going to do it ourselves. I think that was a driver for us. And now, as we continue, 8 years later, our family's needs on the road continue to drive how and what we purchase.
Right, and what you're gonna buy when your kids are young, 3 and 4 and 5, probably would be different than what you're gonna
Yeah,
go out and get when they're
yeah.
I
14
wasn't
and 13.
looking 8 years ago for a space where the Xbox, like how can I, now I'm like, okay, they need a space where they can go off to, and we can put the Xbox in there and shut a door because I don't want to hear it.
Most
Like,
people, when they start shopping for an RV, they get the most excited about motorhomes, and then they start pricing them, and they start to realize, oh, they can get into it a lot more affordably by buying some sort of towable, and you can do that by trading in even if you don't have a truck, you can trade in one of your cars or something, and you can get better interest rates on a truck. You can sort of put more of your overall budget into something that depreciates a little bit less, has a little bit better interest rate, and that you're going to use for other things, right? Your daily driver maybe. So 90% of the RVs sold are towable RVs, and it's a smaller portion that is motorhomes, and they can be a lot more expensive.
What tips would you give, or tip? Actually, give me one really solid tip about for people who are going to get involved with this. Past just the okay, we bought the RV, now we're going to take it out on our first trip, and we've got this. Give me a piece of advice that you would tell your close friends about your first trip out on the road.
Sure, uh, give it all the time that you can to let it breathe. We talk to people that are planning road trips all the time, and they want feedback on their route and all the national parks they're going to visit and all this sort of stuff. And they try to fit 14 different destinations in a 7-day road trip, and you're much better off just going to one place, sitting there and spending the time to enjoy that place, or go to 2 places or 3 places, but really take your time, allow for serendipity, allow for problems. You need to have a little bit of breathing room, and it takes a lot longer to get somewhere in an RV than it does in a car. You're going to drive slower. It takes longer to turn and back up and all that sort of stuff. So give yourself the time.
What's the coolest thing that's happened to you guys when you were traveling? What is there one little piece of this that sticks out to you and says, "Man, that was cool."
Uh, I would say I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that we went all the way from Baja, Mexico to Alaska last year in 6 months. And I think I'm still trying to wrap my head around going to Alaska, that I was in Alaska, that I took an RV through the, Yukon territory of Canada, and that I experienced days and days and days where I didn't see a single building or hardly another person outside of the people I was traveling with. I would say that I am still months later trying to process the fact that I was in Alaska with my RV.
Yeah,
What about
it's a
you?
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that whole trip we got to see phosphorescent plankton in Baja. So the waves are just glowing, and eating Mexican food and drinking margaritas on the beaches, and then working our way up through California, through wine country and the Pacific Northwest, and seeing whales and
Touching whales, having whales push our boat around. I mean, just unbelievable. And but I think that that's just because that's the most recent thing we've really done. We
Yeah.
have had 8 years of the greatest gift ever, which was just getting to see this beautiful planet and experiencing that with our kids. So every day that we've been out on the road has been the best day for me.
Yeah, people sell the beauty of this country short, I think sometimes.
Oh,
"Oh, we gotta
for
go to
sure.
Europe, we gotta go here, we gotta go there," and I mean, I've gone back and forth across country. I hitchhiked the first time when I was 13 years old, and I've been going across, once every couple of years ever since, and I'll tell you, it's been a while. I know I look young, uh, but it really is, and even though it's changed, and it's not the now every exit you get off, there's a gas station, this and that. It's not the old days where you go pull off and there'd be a Stuckey's and you go in and use the bathroom and get a pecan shake and split again. It's really kind of a great place to see, and that brings me to national parks, because you guys are also very big advocates of our national park system. Uh, the dynamic of that is changing. You don't just get in the car, and even if you're not an RV person, you don't
yeah.
just get in the car and go to a national park anymore, do you?
you
Yes and no.
you it's hard to do at the most popular ones. The very popular ones are requiring reservations for entry now, and the reason they're doing that is so that you can have a vacation, so that you aren't surprised when you get somewhere and they say park's full. There are no parking spaces and you're just driving around looking for parking forever. they're limiting entry to and try to give you the opportunity to have a vacation where you know where you're going to go at some of these places like Yosemite and Arches National Park. But there are the big 63 national parks, and then there are 423 total National Park Service sites around the country. And then on top of that, you've got national forests, you've got Bureau of Land Management land, you've got Fish and Wildlife, all sorts of stuff to see out there. And borders are man-made. The edges of national parks are just as beautiful often as the inside. And they're wonderful places that you can go visit that might not be incredibly busy. Or you can visit in the shoulder season, which we always encourage people to do as well. Put a jacket on and visit when it's a little bit cooler.
Yes.
You guys feel safe out there? I mean, it's a weird country now, a little bit. Do you feel secure? You feel safe out your rig?
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think we feel safer than I mean, you're often away from crime, right? A lot of the crime happens in town, in cities where people live, right? And we're often really far removed from that. Certainly, things happen everywhere, and you watch yourself. But I think the bigger concern is getting into an accident or something like that.
You guys are great ambassadors for RVing and for national parks. Like I told you in my letter when I wrote to you, I've really enjoyed watching you. It's almost like I feel like I know you, which is the idea of this, right? You want people to feel like they know you and they trust you, and that there's that the advice that you're giving them is good, solid advice. And I think that you guys really hit the target, the bullseye on that. And plus you have personality, you're enjoyable to listen to or watch. So there's that, just that kind of cohesiveness that makes you feel comfortable watching or listening to the podcast or watching your YouTube. You will be again at the Seattle RV show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the RV Miles Theater. I love saying that. I don't know why.
We love hearing it, and you just have to pay to get into the show, but the seminars are free on top of that.
We would absolutely love to see you there. We would love to meet people out in the Pacific Northwest that we don't often get to run into.
Yeah, I would encourage any of you that are listening, even if you just are going to walk around the show, look at the schedule. It's online at SeattleRVShow.com. Look at when they will be doing their seminars and go and look at of course, the stuff that's there, but also get a good idea from these people and other people that are there too, what it's all about. I think it's an enjoyable way to spend a summer or 7 years of your life, whichever you feel like.
Here's to 7 more and many after that. So
yes, and should all of them be enjoyable and safe, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I hope to get down to the show and actually see you guys in person sometime this week. But just in case I don't, welcome to Seattle. I know you've been here before, but anytime you come back, please feel free to get in touch.
Thanks so much for having us on, Vinny.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Guys. All right. Again, check out their website at RV Miles, their podcast, and all of the stuff that they do. These two people are really great ambassadors for the hobby, the vacation thing of going out in an RV. So there you go. Jason and Abby Epperson. RVMiles.com is their website. Great people, very entertaining on the podcast and not only the podcast, but the videos that they do, and really educational. If you want to learn about what's going on, they do a national parks one, I think once a month, and then at the RV Miles has a weekly podcast that comes out, a weekly tape. You find them on YouTube, you find them on all the podcast providers, as you do us at the Drive Time Radio. And it's just an enjoyable experience to hear from two people who have been there, done that, and are not afraid to share their experience. All right, let's move it along here quickly, as we only have a couple of minutes left. So I want to get to our Yo Vinnie, what are you driving this week? And we certainly want to show you that the Lexus 350 NX has made its way into our garage this week. Uh, Nice entry kind of level luxury small SUV. Sits low to the ground, has a nice stance to it, feels beautiful lines on this car, as most of the Lexuses do, if not all of the Lexuses. They really have a nice style to them, very cohesive, very functional. Goes along with not only the driving experience, but also the safety experience as well. The only thing that's really kind of bad about Lexus sometimes has Texas plates, and I've gotten a finger a couple of times from people. So I'm not from Texas. The NH350H really, as I said, just gives you an entry point, if you will, into the hybrid world. It's not a plug-in; it's just a regular hybrid. Interior is really improved. I mean, I'm impressed with what Lexus has done with the 14-inch screen. The Mark Levinson stereo system in there. I think it has 18 speakers. I might have missed one or two under the seats, but plenty of room in the front. Rear seat room is a little less than you might expect, but still ample. You have jacks in the back to plug your stuff in, and the hybrid engine. And the 350H hybrid gives you the 239 horsepower, 41 miles per gallon in the city, 37 on the highway. It'll get you to 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds, and it does use a CVT, which I'm not a big fan of the CVT, but um, you have to live with them these days. What are you going to do? Plenty of cargo space too in this thing. As you can see, I have all my laundry fit into it to get it to the laundromat. The car day was a laundry day today, but the gate opens up, gives you a wide area to put stuff in. The seats fold down, as we'll see here in a second, and you get ample cargo space in this thing to be able to put the stuff that you have to usually take with you to go different places. It's something that that Lexus has always been good at, making good use of cargo space. I've always enjoyed the way that they do that, and I think that they do a nice job of it. Now, there's a lot of different powertrain options in this Lexus NX line. They go from a 250, which is a front-wheel drive, it's about $40,000. You add all-wheel drive in, you add in some of the other options, the 14 screen and so forth, and you get up to around $60,000. And if you want the F Sport, which is the 450H, that'll get you up to $63,000, almost $64,000 for this vehicle, and it is about what you're going to pay if you're looking for this type of vehicle. The great thing about Lexus is the reliability and the function. I mean, it may not be as exciting as a BMW, may not be as techy as a Genesis in those respects, but the Lexus brings you safety, reliability. Their Safety Suite 3.0 that they use is contains just all of the things that you would expect it to do: the lane change, the emergency stop, the dystonic cruise control, all of the stuff that you would expect to be there is there, and then some. And what I really like about this car, and don't tell anybody I told you this, but I love the fact that it has the switchable ambient lighting that you can, if you're in a good mood, you can hit the red and it'll give you a nice red lighting at night. If you're in a gray mood, you hit the white or the gray and it'll, kind of go along with your mood. I mean, listen, who to have a car as a mood ring, I think, is a pretty good thing. But anyway, this is the Lexus NX 350H. I think I'm having a lot of fun with this car. I'll give you a complete report on it in a week or two. But as you would go out to buy a hybrid, and it's not going to be a plug-in; it's just going to be a regular hybrid. I think this is, and you're looking for some luxury. I think this is a vehicle that is going to give you a solid sense of reliability, a solid sense of affordability, and a solid sense of beauty when you look at it. It is a good looking car, comes in great colors, has a lot of room in the interior for you to move around in. And it is, as I say, Toyota's been doing hybrids since the beginning. They are experts at this stuff, and they know how to put a package together that will move the vehicle along gracefully. And I got to be honest with you, put it into sport, and it handles nicely too. I took it. I haven't taken it up to the Joe yet, but which is our test track, the Joe Retrici Memorial Auto Test Course. But it goes. And it handles. It makes going through a few curves that I've gone through with it so far enjoyable. And that's what you're looking for. All right, that's our Yo, Vinnie, what are you driving this week? Next week, we'll have a full review of, we got a couple that we're going to review next week because we kind of run out of time this week with the interview and everything. But we'll take a look next week at the hybrid Honda, the CRV Hybrid Sport Touring, which is one of the best cars I've driven all year. It really is. In that space, it's the one you're going to be looking at. Honda always does a great job with their hybrids, and this one should be no exception. And it won't be. So that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always get me at Vinnie at drivetime-radio.com. So it's VINNIE at drivetime-radio.com. We are looking for sponsors for the show. So if you are one of those people who are in charge of advertising budgets or something like that, please contact us because we'd like to get the show on, keep the show going. And the only way we do that is with the Geets, little Geets, Geetus, little Gelt helps us along. If not, we still do the show, but there are things that we would like to do, like go to the, different auto shows and stuff like that. That would be really nice if we had a little bit of a travel budget to be able to do, and to bring you some more information, more interviews, and more things. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. I'll be with you tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Monday at 10:10 with Michael Knight. Until then, have fun watching the Super Bowl this week. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't be an idiot. Don't be that guy or that woman who people point at and say, "Oh, you know what happened to them last week." Don't do it. There's plenty of Ubers out there, and no matter what you pay for an Uber or a Lyft, it's still better and cheaper than getting a DUI ticket and possibly hurting somebody or killing somebody. So please do me a favor and make sure that you call an Uber or get a ride from a friend or have a designated driver, one way or the other. Don't become a statistic on Super Bowl Sunday. Other than that, I'll say go Niners. And thank you again to Abby and Jason Epperson from RVMiles.com. Of course, our good friend George Jackson, who helps keep the show going. And most of all, to you for listening. Thank you very much. See you Monday if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. And until then, peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby. Oh, there's no Michael to say what a wine. Have a good one.